Okay, so now we're going to move on to the part of the video where Jeff and Shaleia are addressing the financial allegations, or at least they're wanting us to believe that they're going to address those allegations.
Move on
Yeah.
to kind of maybe for me, it feels like the final question or issue that was brought up in all the docudramas and in a lot of comments.
So, someone brought up in a comment on one of my videos that they keep using the word docudrama instead of documentary. And do they even know the difference between a documentary and a docudrama? I think this is done intentionally. I think it's an intentional ploy to make the documentary seem hyped and dramatized and ridiculous. And they they think that I think they genuinely think that their audience can't see what they're doing. But there are all these little subtle digs that are made at various people, journalists, the documentaries, anyone who's critical of them. They have to get in these snide little jabs at those people. And for me, using the word docudrama instead of documentary is just part of that.
I mean, I've got a lot of content still,
Do
so
you?
yeah.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
But another big upset that came up and concern was about our wealth and how we make money and that we make a lot of money and that we're shoving our luxury goods and our luxurious lifestyle down your throat, which I didn't resonate with that. Scrolling through my Instagram, it's mostly just my family and in nature, with a couple pictures of like, here's our new car that we got. I had like one picture of like my Chanel purse, which was special because it was the very last design that Karl Lagerfeld did. And that got in there, and I'm like, in the docudrama, and I'm like, okay, that was one.
See how she stopped herself. She was about to say documentary and she quickly changed it to docudrama. These two know what they're doing. And they believe they're being clever. They believe that they are kind of throwing this shade and that it's actually going to resonate with people. So she's saying there was only one post of her Chanel purse. I mean, do people really make documentaries about someone who makes one post with a Chanel purse? This just, it sounds ridiculous and it's just ridiculous. It never kind of ceases to astonish me how little sense these two actually make and whether like what they actually think they're doing with this video. But I think it's interesting to have a look at I believe that cult leaders, people who operate cults, are mentally unwell, probably a combination of personality disorder, issues related to personality disorders, and the delusion that sets in from spending a prolonged period of time in one of these high control groups, the paranoia. And for me, it's just very interesting to see the language that's used and to see the deluded, distorted reality that they live in.
Whatever. So I want to talk about that because that seems like the frame is that we exploit people and we're extracting money from them.
This word frame is another word that they use a lot to make it seem as if all the allegations are part of a concocted narrative. It's just a story that's been spun by a few disgruntled ex members by the media who created a frame. And using the word frame is just another way to imply that it's all made up, it's all fabricated. And she's saying the frame is that we exploit people for money. Um, well, this is what they're being investigated by the department. I assume what the Department of Labor is investigating them for is the exploitation. The fact that members of the group have to hand over large portions of their income to the group, the fact that all the money kind of tends to stay within the group like a pyramid scheme, the fact that people are performing unpaid labor for Jeff and Shaleia, it, these are very serious allegations. And let's just have a look at how Jeff and Shaleia are going to try and explain, or kind of like, brush these aside, what they're going to do to try and explain away these allegations.
I think it's absurd.
Sorry.
That seems like the frame is that we exploit people and we're extracting money from them. What do you think about that?
I think it's absurd. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I think that it is sensationalism, and it's designed to make you upset at us and make you not listen to us. And
Well, it is upsetting. It's very upsetting to think of people, vulnerable people, being labor trafficked, people having their hard earned money extracted from them, people having their work, creativity extracted from them. Jeff and Shaleia kind of quote unquote employ, and I hesitate to use that word because it's not real employment, but they employ members of their group in staff positions in the organization. So they have various titles, digital manager or HR manager, what have you, various members of the group in unpaid positions within the company. And it's sold to them. I don't quite know what promises they're being given to convince them, or what they're being told to convince them to take on those roles, but those positions are not being paid. They're not salaried positions. They are, for all intents and purposes, volunteers. And I believe that's another reason why they've set up this church, because churches are allowed to take on volunteers to do work for them, and they don't have to pay them. Anyway, that's a whole thing we can get into, hopefully if the investigations lead somewhere and there's a court case, we can maybe get into a lot of that kind of thing, because I think that's interesting, the way that cults exploit people's labor. But Jeff says he thinks it's absurd. He thinks it's all been made up. It's lies to try and convince people that Jeff and Shaleia are not to be trusted and not to be listened to. I just want to say, Jeff and Shaleia actually want us to believe that they are capable of honestly looking at their own actions, at their organization, and providing an honest report, honest feedback about whether there's anything nefarious going on. And yet every single accusation and allegation they have just dismissed as a lie and a fabrication. So to me, it's unbelievable that they actually want us to believe that they are capable of telling us whether there's something wrong with what they're doing or not, that they will actually tolerate feedback from their members. Remember they said they created a team, or they appointed a team from within the group to have a look at the allegations, to see if there was any merit to it, to see if the group was doing anything wrong. And what do you know? They found that they weren't doing anything wrong. But to listen to Jeff and Shaleia talk about it, do you actually think for 1 second that they would listen to one of their members giving them any criticism?
And it's designed to make you upset at us and make you not listen to us. And it's part of the cover-up. Is you're so upset at Jeff and Shaleia that you won't listen to a word that they say. And if you don't listen to what they say, we can keep going on about our money-grabbing grift. And it's funny that they project all this onto us while it's what they're doing. first
I
of all.
know. Where I thought the same.
So hang on. According to Jeff, it's the media who are engaged in a money-making grift. And it's all a big conspiracy to prevent the public from looking closer at the money-making grift of the media. This is fascinating. It is fascinating to listen to cult leaders talk. It's fascinating the little paranoid stories that are going on inside these people's heads. It's just so interesting to me.
You're just grifting off of us.
But let's talk about how our finances are structured. And I'm not holding back here, guys. Like,
Can you like move a little closer to me?
hey,
Move closer to Mama.
I like you.
I like you too. All right, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to tell you. So let's first talk about the essence of money. What is money? This is our teaching, right?
I thought you were going to tell us how finances are structured. We all know what money is. This is more word salad, more fluff, more bullshit, more jackassery from him, you know, pontificating.
Where does it come from? The essence of money is value. As I value this.
Prepare for an economics lecture from Jeff.
And I can, money is an exchange medium for value. So like, I have this watch. It's not that expensive. I don't know what not expensive for you is, but it's a $500 watch. And it took all these people, all this effort to make this watch, and materials and marketing and business systems, and they price it. And I was willing to pay $500 for the watch because I valued it at that level of exchange medium. And that money goes to the watch creator, right? Because I valued it. He or she created this watch and therefore created value, which I paid money for, and that becomes wealth, right? So they created value and I paid money for it. And I got that money.
How many times are you going to say they created value and you paid money for it? I mean, I know I can sometimes repeat myself, but I'm also not trying to bullshit my way out of very serious criminal allegations.
Same thing by creating value for others, right? If you look at a bank, something called fractional reserve banking, they're not actually like handing you money from someone else's savings account that they loan out. What they're doing is they'll loan you money, they create it out of thin air, and they just put a number on their balance sheet that says, I gave you $100,000 for a house, and I put a $100,000 promise to pay on my books.
I thought you were going to get right into how your finances are structured. What does any of this have to do with Twin Flames Universe?
Lend out money. They just wrote it on their books because of they created value in the loan. I don't really want to go into the teaching of that if you don't understand it.
Yeah.
So snarky and nasty. I don't really want to go into the teaching of that when he's just gone on about it for the last couple of minutes. If you don't understand it, this man believes he is much more intelligent than everyone that he is speaking to. And that's why he and Shaleia think they can get away with all this bullshit, because they actually believe that it makes sense. In my opinion, they believe that what they are saying is really profound, intelligent stuff, and that they are impressing people. That is my reading of these two. And so he thinks he can just throw a few concepts about how money works, how value works. He thinks he can just throw that out there and that people are going to be so like, oh, wow, that, wow, that's so true, and it's actually going to kind of land with people in some way. It's fascinating to me. That's what it is.
Is creating value. And our wealth comes from creating value in the lives of our students. That's the point of this. If you don't get value from what I'm offering, the simple point of it is you won't pay me.
Oh, it's become really bright in here for a second. That's better.
And don't get value from what I'm offering, the simple point of it is you won't pay me. And by the way, our money doesn't primarily come through the very expensive courses that they like to say.
This guy gives me major Keith Raniere vibes. What do you guys think? I strongly believe that Jeff and Shaleia have modeled Twin Flames Universe on Nexium. And I believe that Jeff sees Keith Raniere as somewhat of an aspirational, inspirational figure. That is what I believe. He's talking about value, and if people don't get value out of the work that they're doing in Twin Flames Universe, then they're not going to pay them. And of course, he's conveniently leaving out the whole element, the whole cult element of indoctrination and coercive control, and the way that people in these sorts of organizations, these sorts of groups, are manipulated to hand over their money, manipulated to work for the organization for free. It's not an honest exchange of value as he's trying to present it. He's more or less saying, well, if people didn't want to pay us, then they wouldn't. It's that it's all this complete free market. But we know that in high control groups, nothing is really totally consensual, because people are under the influence of so much deception, so much manipulation. A lot of the time, the indoctrination has been going on for years. And, so this concept it's just not valid. This concept of an equal exchange of value, it doesn't apply in cults, because people are not making informed choices. That's the problem with it.
It comes from coaching.
Yeah, and I just want to also say that, especially in the 21st century, so many products and services are based off of apps where you have to subscribe to an ongoing membership, like monthly or annually. Very few options to just outright buy, the app for a lifetime.
And a lot of those are scams. Just, feel the need to say that. I've spoken many, many times on my channel about Matthew Hussey's subscription-based scams. Subscriptions are a very popular tool used by scammers or grifters, people who are trying to get you to part with your money and who are not going to provide sufficient value in return. Subscriptions are very popular because it's a consistent and predictable source of income for them. And it's dubious whether you are actually getting something out of that service month in and month out. I personally try very hard never to subscribe to any. I try never to have any sort of subscriptions, because I don't believe that they're set up to favor the consumer. It's always set up to favor the provider, who are getting a consistent income via your subscription fee. But are you actually getting the same amount of value? It's very easy for them, not necessarily something that you're going to be using all the time. A lot of times people just forget about the subscriptions that they have, or it's difficult to cancel them. It's very, very iffy in my opinion. That's just an aside. Um, but so Jeff and Shaleia are saying that actually most of their income doesn't come from the courses, which are very expensive, and they admitted to that. They said these very expensive courses, which they are. Their courses are thousands of dollars. But she said it actually comes from the coaching. And to me, that makes sense because coaching, I think, is charged per session or per hour. And if you have all these coaches that they've trained, you've got a whole network of coaches underneath you, like a pyramid scheme. And these coaches are all giving Jeff and Shaleia a portion of their income. I would imagine that's an absolute gold mine for them.
Lifetime ongoing membership, like monthly or annually. Very few options to just outright buy, the app for a lifetime or the service for a lifetime. And actually, we don't operate that way. Like TFAS, you can either buy outright or you can get on like the monthly plan, and I think you pay it off within like a year.
So we offer, we'll finance
it.
it for you and give you a payment plan.
Sure. You can do it in installments, but like it comes to an end.
You keep it for life.
Not that much different from a subscription then. Monthly installments is exactly how a subscription works. I mean, how many people really have $8,888 to slap down on a Twin Flames Ascension course, Ascension School course, whatever it's called, whatever their courses are called? How many people are actually going to be able to pay for that upfront? And so they're saying, oh, well, you can finance it. You can pay it off over a year. But to my mind, that works out to exactly the same thing as a subscription. It's just a subscription that you are apparently canceling after a year. And I imagine by that stage, you're already, by the time you've completed a whole year's worth of payments, you're already indoctrinated into the group. You're probably buying more courses. And how easy is it then to just kind of move on? This is how high control groups work. It's not just your money that they want, it's your time, it's your attention. They want to draw you in so that they can keep feeding on you I know that sounds gross, but that's just how I see it.
And you keep it for life. You're not constantly paying us for a subscription to watch classes.
And you don't even need to buy that stuff to get the teaching. There's free stuff that gives you the whole teaching. There's really inexpensive stuff that gives you the teaching.
Well, hang on. If all the stuff that's in the expensive courses can also be found for free, then what is your justification for charging so much for the courses? Going back to your explanation of value, Jeff, if all the value that's in the expensive courses can be found actually for free, then how do you explain to us why they cost thousands of dollars? See how none of this is adding up, and you only need to use their own words to see how it doesn't add up.
It's not even from our products that our real wealth comes from. Most of the wealth comes from coaching, and that's an ongoing relationship that you can stop at any time. If you aren't getting ongoing value from the coaching.
Just want to reiterate, the coaching is not necessarily taking place between a client and Jeff and Shaleia. The coaching is primarily taking place between clients and the coaches that are trained by Jeff and Shaleia. It's set up like a pyramid scheme. So the coaches that are trained are underneath Jeff and Shaleia, and there might actually be different tiers. I believe there are even different tiers of coaches. You have like master ascension coaches or something like that, and then you've got your lower tier coaches. And at each level of coaching, at each level of coach, the coaches are handing over a portion of what they earn from coaching clients directly to Jeff and Shaleia. So that's where the exploitative business model comes in. That's where the similarity to a pyramid scheme comes in. And here we have Jeff and Shaleia outright admitting that's where most of their money comes from.
There are other twin flame talkers that will talk to you about twin flames that you can go to that are outside of twin flames universe that will gladly take your money and talk about twin flames with you.
Sure.
So the only way that we have a sustainable growing fortune is because we create real value in the lives of our clients, our students.
Yeah.
And that is an ongoing relationship. We don't actually have a huge following. It's
No.
a few hundred active people.
So again, I just feel the need to point out the similarity to a pyramid scheme. In a pyramid scheme, there aren't actually a lot of external customers that are purchasing products or purchasing the service. In a pyramid scheme, it's primarily members inside the group, active members. And we have Jeff and Shaleia admitting this. It's coming out of their own mouths. You have active members inside the group who are really engaged with the activities, the products, the teachings in this case, and who are continuously supporting the business with their own purchases. They are spending money inside the group. It's mostly a closed system. And that's what makes it exploitative, because you have people who there's no real external market for the products or services. It's people who are indoctrinated and who are continuously convinced and manipulated to keep spending money, to keep providing coaching, to keep providing unpaid labor so that those at the top can benefit.
And the relationship. We don't actually have a huge following. It's
No.
a few hundred active people at most. And these people get tremendous value in their lives from this teaching, because value, remember, is created. Mm-hmm. And we created the systems that support the teaching. And our community is, it's an economy that many people are enjoying financial prosperity from.
Right.
And many people are enjoying benefit from.
So we're not an MLM.
It's not an MLM.
We're not an MLM. That's not how our structure and our business works.
Yes, they are. And I think it's fascinating that after providing that explanation, the very next words out of Shaleia's mouth are, "We are not an MLM." That is what every multi-level marketing company who does not want to be associated with the negative stigma surrounding MLMs, that's what they all say. "Oh, we're not an MLM. We're not a pyramid scheme." And any organization or company that feels the need to clarify, "We're not an MLM, we're not a pyramid scheme," almost certainly is running as an MLM or a pyramid scheme. And Jeff has just described it.
Made that up. They
Well,
made a little crappy diagram about it, but
it's not.
It doesn't work. It's not how we work.
If we're an MLM, then the American Association of Dentistry, American Dental Association, is set up the same way.
Well, this is another, if you watch much anti-MLM content, you will know that this is a very common deflection tactic. It's a very common defense offered by MLMs. They'll say, "Oh, everything's an MLM. Corporate America is an MLM." Companies are set up the same way. You've got someone at the top and you have people underneath them, and it's a hierarchy. And this is just absolute nonsense, because it's not about the structure. It's not about it being a hierarchy. It's about the way that the money flows, and the fact that it's a closed system, and that people have to pay to play, and it's based on recruiting and then earning money off people that you recruit into the organization. I could do a longer explanation about that, but I encourage you, if you're confused about the difference between corporate hierarchies and MLMs or pyramid schemes. I encourage you to go and check out anti-MLM content. But just for now, what you need to know is that this is a very common defense that MLMs will try to offer. Oh, everything that has a hierarchy is a pyramid scheme. They're trying to essentially say there's no such thing as a pyramid scheme. That, you know, MLMs or pyramid schemes are everywhere. It's trying to make it seem legitimate.
Right? Like MLM, then the American Association of Dentistry, American Dental Association is set up the same way as
Right.
us, essentially, right? Like we certify coaches and they go out and start their own practice.
Right. And,
Except they have to pay a portion of their income back to Jeff and Shaleia forever. It would be totally different if they were allowed to go out and start their own practice and then become totally independent. But that's not how this works. It's pay to play. It's paying in order to earn the right to have an income. And that is a key feature of a pyramid scheme, that in order to have the right to earn an income, you have to pay. And so coaches are paying not only for the courses and the training, but they're also paying part of their income. And I imagine that there are all kinds of catches to that as well, that there are all sorts of things that coaches, in addition to just skimming 50% off the top, that coaches are paying in other ways. And the net result of that is that coaches are they're also being manipulated to provide free labor to the organization. So we have people who are certified as coaches are doing all kinds of tasks for the organization that they're not being paid for. And so people lose track of, like, how many hours am I spending working for this organization? How many hours am I spending coaching? What am I actually earning? Like, what am I getting in return? That's where the harm of pyramid schemes, MLMs, comes in. You have people who are sacrificing themselves for the benefit of the organization without proper boundaries, without the protection that labor laws provide, because they're independent contractors, I'm assuming. They're not employees.
about one of the aspects of our business.
Essentially, right? Like we certify coaches and they go out and start their own practice.
Right. And, I want to talk about one of the aspects of our business that people had a big issue with. And it's about, like how we were structured between like volunteers and also our coaches. Now, I want to bring you back about 5 to 7 years ago from today. So about 2019, 2020 or something like that, when we first started what we call the AAC, the
Association of Ascension Coaches.
Yeah. So back in the early days, for quite some time actually, anyone could, we would certify you as a coach, and that was it. You never had to pay us again. You could just have clients, go out, get clients, teach based off of our teachings.
So that would be a legitimate business model, to certify someone as a coach and then empower them to go and start their own coaching practice, and you never have to pay the organization that certified you ever again. That would be legitimate, because it's setting people free to run independent businesses, and it's severing that connection. I mean, it'd be like you go to university to get a degree and you pay for that training, you pay for that degree, but then in addition, you're paying a portion of your income back to the university for the rest of your career. Like that's not legitimate. No, we don't have to do that. Okay, but let's let her finish explaining.
We found eventually that that was not a sustainable business model for us. That actually
She's admitting this wasn't sustainable because people were only having to pay them once. And so they thought, I know, these coaches that we're certifying only pay us once for the training, and then they're going off and starting their own thing. And Jeff and Shaleia could no longer make money off of them.
All the work and the sweat off of our backs was going to benefit other people in their business more than it would benefit us in our business.
What does that mean? All the sweat off of our backs would benefit other people in their business. So didn't these coaches pay you to train them? They paid for the training. What more do you want to be paid for? Just spoiler alert, she's actually not going to explain what she means by this, but I just find this like incredible. She's saying that because we trained them once, because we put in the work to train them, we deserve to get paid for the rest of time for all their work. That's essentially where she's going with this.
Doesn't create a happy and healthy and harmonious relationship because we were the ones to break ground here.
I see. So reading between the lines, what I'm getting is that their coaches were going off and starting their own coaching practices and potentially being quite successful, maybe even being more successful than Jeff and Shaleia were. And Jeff and Shaleia couldn't have that. They needed to create a relationship of dependency. And they were saying it didn't create a happy relationship between them and their coaches. So to me, that sounds like Jeff and Shaleia were resentful of the success that their coaches were having. And they were like, well, you know, they needed to find a way that they could cash in, that they could benefit from the income that their coaches were making for the rest of time.
Teaching came through us and we shared it.
But the coaches paid for you to train them. You created a coach certification program where coaches paid to be trained by you, and you're saying, well, that wasn't enough. They wanted to keep earning off their coaches forever because they created the material. This is how these coaching scams, these coaching pyramid schemes work. You are beholden to the people who certify you for far longer than the training actually lasts. There's a dynamic that's created where you are giving up money and paying to be a part of this program for an indefinite period of time. Just if you do come across these coach certification programs in the wild, just be very vigilant about this. Does the program allow you to pay once for the training and then it sets you free to be independent? Or is there some kind of a contract, some kind of an agreement where you have to continue to pay to the program long term? They're going to somehow get you to keep handing over money.
It was not a good or sustainable business model.
Or relationship.
Which is one of the clips that they used in the docudrama of Jeff yelling at the students. It was actually, it wasn't even him yelling. You were just disciplining and sharing your feelings because...
Disciplining? Who the hell are you? What gives you the right to discipline grown adults who are coming to you for, to be certified as coaches? Who do you think you are? These are your students. They're your people in your organization who have received training. They're not your children. What gives you the right to discipline them? I mean, they're not even hiding it, really. It's all out in the open, really, what they're admitting to. And also, like, if we go back to the scene in the documentary that of Jeff yelling at people, at coaches, he's talking about the unpaid work that the coaches are doing for the organization. It was specifically in reference to these. I mentioned they had these various positions and roles within the organization, like HR manager or digital content creator, or whatever it was that whatever the names of these positions were, that people were not being paid for. They weren't earning a salary for that. It sounds like the only income that they were getting is if they were um, able to have a client and coach a client who would then pay them for the coaching, and then they're still having to hand over a portion of their income to Jeff and Shaleia. So it's dependency on multiple levels.
These people were, they could make pretty good money off
Maybe if they were allowed to keep 100% of it, it might have been good money. I don't know. But they're having to hand over a large portion of it to Jeff and Shaleia.
X.
And my theory is that Jeff and Shaleia saw the good income that the coaches were making and decided, well, why should they get to keep all of that? Why should they get to use our materials and our methods and get to keep all of the money? Why should they get to keep that income? We need to have a slice, a huge slice of that pie. I'm starting to kind of see the thinking that Jeff and Shaleia had, because they're scammers. They're self-absorbed, narcissistic scammers.
Doing like these people were, they could make pretty good money off of our backs, off of the work that we were doing.
What do you mean off of your backs? Were they not doing the work themselves? Were they not actually the ones actually providing the coaching? How are they making it off your backs? They've already paid for the training. Like, what are you talking about?
Have to, I don't know.
Well, their
Sell
businesses
subs.
depended on us
Yeah,
just the same.
just the same. It was
So,
an ecosystem.
If you want to have, if we wanted to serve these people, our coach,
How did their businesses depend on them? I mean, they don't explain this. Or they don't explain how they felt taken advantage of, or how people were earning money off of their backs, or what the 50% skimming off the top of their coach's income is actually for. They don't explain that. What are they paying for? What are they paying Jeff and Shaleia for? They've already paid to be trained. So how do Jeff and Shaleia justify this?
we needed to have a healthy relationship to be able to continue the direction we were going.
To me, that sounds like they needed their coaches to be beholden to them. They needed their coaches to be dependent on them, and also to be paying them in order for Jeff and Shaleia to be okay in the relationship. And that is, again, a classic feature of an abuser, of a controlling person, that they are only ever happy in the relationship when they have you under their control, when they are not capable of an equal relationship, or of an open and honest and fair relationship. It only works for them when the other person is under their thumb in some way, when there is some sort of exploitation going on.
The media clipped some, intense part of a passionate, intimate financial
Meeting.
relationship that we're having together. It's like
Passionate and intense are also euphemisms that abusive people use to describe their abuse. Oh, I was just being intense. I was just being passionate, when they were actually being abusive.
twin flame. The media clipped some, intense part of a passionate, intimate financial
Meeting.
relationship that we're having together. It's like a family inside Twin Flames universe. It's real. It's honest. It's passionate. There are real feelings, and you're allowed to express your feelings and have dialogue and work.
Are your coaches allowed to scream back at you? Are they allowed to be equally as intense or passionate with Jeff and Shaleia as Jeff and Shaleia are with them? I somehow doubt that.
Point isn't that we do or do not have intense feelings. The point is that we work through them together. We heal. We come out on the other side and we feel better. And we just got, our dream car, a Ferrari, 458 Spider. It's the last naturally aspirated V8 Ferrari.
Remember earlier how Shaleia was talking about how they don't brag about their wealth when she was talking about the Chanel bag that was the last one of its kind designed by Karl Lagerfeld? And here we have Jeff with his massive toothy grin describing the Ferrari that they've just bought in excruciating detail and directly contradicting what they said earlier about not bragging about their wealth. These two are just so disgusting. They're so cringy. They're so ugh. They give me the gibblies.
We just got, our dream car, a Ferrari, 458 Spider. It's the last naturally aspirated V8 Ferrari they ever made. Super sweet. You can see it on our gram right now. And it's an indicator of the ongoing success of our community and a testament to the power of our teachings and a reminder to our students and our coaches that this isn't going anywhere and that there is success for everyone here and we're not the only ones making money.
I can't wait to see these two being arrested and winding themselves in prison. And this whole narrative of it's an indication of the success of the group and it's not just our success, it's everyone's success. Well, I mean, are your coaches allowed to drive your Ferrari? Do they all have a share in the Ferrari? Is this Ferrari like a company car that everyone can drive then, Jeff, or is it only for you and Shaleia? That was a rhetorical question.
Money, not like the media does by exploiting other people.
We're helping people and we're loving people.
And if you look at our testimony,
We're helping people and we're loving people by buying a Ferrari for ourselves.
like the media does by exploiting other people.
We're helping people and we're loving people.
And if you look at our testimonials, that is the vast majority of our students' experiences. And I want to get back to this relationship between our students and the disagreement, with the former students. And they just had an upset they didn't want to work through. And if you think, well, what did all this hold on now.
Okay, so the next portion of the video is going to be him essentially insulting the former students because that's all that he and Shaleia know how to do is, sling mud at other people in the tradition of Nexium and Scientology. That's what all these cults do. It's, they are just hateful towards people who have criticized them and are speaking out about them. So we'll leave it there for part 4 for today, and I will come back with part 5 really soon. And we'll just get into what Jeff and Shaleia have to say about their former students. So bye for now, everyone. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.